have them available so that you're wearing them when you cannot maintain the 6-foot physical distancing or social distancing. And that's just to protect everybody. Then as far as donations, we really want to help the GOA, thank the GOA Group Foundation for donating gowns, goggles, masks, some booties for us, which the gowns in particular are very much in need. We wear those when we're around suspected or confirmed people who are carrying the virus. One of the problems for my officers is we don't know who has what, and more police officers are becoming infected across the country and more deaths than quite a few other essential workers. The other thing around town, we are excited to see changes. We are trying to keep up with everything. There may be a move soon enough to open up the parts of city government. We're not exactly sure, but it's all based upon what Department of Public Health allows us to do. And as far as safety-wise, we have an increase in commercial burglaries. So if you do own a business in town, please make sure that you secure your location and that your doors are locked, you have an alarm, and this alarm is on. If you're going to be away for a long time, let us know. And we do resident vacation checks, and we can also do that for businesses. The other thing is we've been arresting a lot of people for different crimes, but there's a zero bail, except for 13 specific crimes. And that starts at residential burglary all the way up to murder. And anything else, it's a zero bail. We write them a ticket, take them into custody, write them a ticket, and away they go. Some cities have had people commit similar crimes and fairly soon after, and they've made multiple arrests of the same person for the same crime. So that's why it's important. If you see something that doesn't seem right, see something, say something, give us a call. We're always available, and don't hesitate to call. Open for some questions, a little brief, but wanted to get through it because this program looks very interesting.
Thank you, Chief. If you've got a question, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I have a question, please, Chief. You mentioned July 4th, you needed something, but I didn't understand what it was.
Oh, July 4th, the city is working on plans to have a community decoration contest. So decorating your home in the spirit of the 4th of July, of the Declaration of Independence and everything else. More specifics are coming out. It'll be discussed at an upcoming city council meeting. And not this one Friday, not tomorrow. We're doing the budget, and it'll be after that. So
and are you doing anything? Oh, sorry. Are you doing anything for the graduates? Any driving through? Any? Do you need us to parade with you?
Sure. Well, there was a change last week in the orders about graduation parades and parades in general. And Public Health came out with some very specific rules. Everyone has to be in a vehicle. They can't be outside the vehicle. They can't get out. They have to wear a mask if the window's down. It has to be a continuous movement. And you can't exchange things except one important document, which is probably their diploma. And yesterday, Carver had a ceremony that went off very well. And today, Valentine had one this morning. And I think HMS has just finished theirs. The school district worked really well with the city complying with the county order. And so if you have questions, it's on the county website about what you can do. So if you want to have a birthday parade or something, it can be done. But the host is responsible for safety, enforcement of the rules, and all the other things. But I refer you to the Department of Public Health.
Chief?
Yes, sir.
Chief, what's the situation with residential burglaries?
Residential burglaries were up. However, we had one residence that was empty. That we had 7 crimes occur at that location. And we arrested multiple people multiple times. And since then, we've been working with the trustee of the property. and it's been much more secured. We haven't had any problems. But other than that, things are kind of remaining steady, but commercial burglaries have been up. And, you know, with businesses closed, no one's around, they're not checking their stores. But now businesses can open, except certain prohibited ones at this time. So we'll have more traffic, we'll have more people around, especially in some of the smaller office buildings here in town.
Thanks, Chief. I think John Donovan is here for his first Zoom Rotary meeting. Nice to see you, John.
Hi, thanks. Good to see you
I
all.
would assume you have a question for the Chief, right?
No, other than to keep up the good work. But if you can send a paramedic to check on Isaac Hung, I've noticed he's not blinking. Is he okay?
That's pretty funny.
I have a poor connection, so I just keep the photo on.
Oh, are you okay? Good.
That's hilarious.
Hey, great.
Any other questions for Chief? All right, Chief, thank you very much. We appreciate your updates.
You're welcome.
a lot.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, we can move on. We had a small Rotary Club board meeting last night. We didn't have enough members in there to make any votes, so we will update you guys next time. We're starting to discuss what to do next year as it turns into Aaron Gill's domain, and you know it's going to be kind of the same for a little bit as we're doing now, at least till things get better. So, but we'll update you once we get some official votes on last night's meeting. And there's a charity board meeting after this too, so I'm sure next week we'll have some updates on that. If we have any committee members that would like to give an update, Bill Payne, do we have any updates on Global Grant Scholars? Well, you're muted. There you go. Bill, you're on mute. There you go.
I'm not sure if I'd mentioned it last meeting or not, but we did receive a communique from RI saying that they had run out of global grant money. And so the 4 in the district that have or are being approved will have to wait for funding next year, which means July instead of now. They obviously have bills to pay and would hope for some scholarship money earlier rather than later. But it is what it is, and July, hopefully, RI funding opens back up.
Okay.
Probably
Good.
not
Thanks,
a surprise.
Bill. Gilda, you have an announcement from the district?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Greg. So you may have all received the invitation to the District Assembly General Session. Yes? Hopefully you all have. Great, great, great. So as you know, I'm also part of the membership at the district. So make sure you register. I think the capacity on the meetings is 250. So you want to register for those, and they have different sessions. I'm speaking on June 18th, but the entire 4-week session, it should be a great training. Usually these trainings, we go together. And so if you're looking at a leadership position and you want to understand how Rotary operates on the board and leadership at the district, this is for you. It's insightful, and hey, we don't have to commute. Or usually it's in the Apple Valley or something like that, or so we don't have to commute. It's all on Zoom. So I hope you register early because it is capped at 250. Thank you.
Thanks, Gilda. I'm going to let Maurice and James, do you guys want to give us an update on the San Marino School Foundation?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a quick announcement, and James will give more detail. But first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for the generous donations that Rotary made towards our campaign. We're currently at just over $1 million. We're able to save 11 positions, and we are in an overtime 4th quarter push with a matching endowment. So I'm going to let James kind of give you the details on that for our last final push towards the end of the month. Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
Maurice. Yeah, and thanks for having me to give an update. Yeah, I just want to also reiterate Maurice's thanks to the Rotarians for your support. I just want to especially, say thank you to those who have donated so far. So, Dennis Neer, always grateful for your support. Emil Bale, Marie Saldivar, of course, and for your help in getting us there. Michael Chu, and I think I said Greg, but also, those are the people who actually donated on your page. I think Paul Broussard, as well as Chief Encontro, also gave. So thank you to helping to save these positions. So yeah, we're very close. We have until May 31st to raise an additional, 100,000 to save those remaining positions, and we will continue to push until the 31st, and then from that point on, we're going to move back into our original campaign. So as Marie said, one of the first time we've ever done is to use our endowment as the earnings from it to use as a matching grant for every donation that comes in from May 18th through the 31st. We're going to match it 1-to-1. And it was a decision that the foundation wanted to continue to urge the community to come and support the teachers and counselors who are still, who received the final layoff notices. So just as a background, by the time that the school board met on May 12th, they rescinded 9 positions thanks to support, like the people I just mentioned, and there were 4 additional positions that we weren't able to save yet. So from May 12th through now, we are still trying to push to get those last remaining positions. So I would just ask and really encourage you all, and maybe Dennis could do a little rah-rah to get others to give, but to get to give a little bit more, so that way we can actually reach our goal of saving those positions. And again, any donation amount that you give is going to be matched by the foundation. So thank you for your consideration, and please continue to support us.
Thanks, James.
I'll
Anybody have a
donate
question?
I'll donate just because of Greg's Corona stash.
Yeah, this is not a question, but this is Chris Norgard, and I'm on my phone, and I just want to second everything that James said. And, we still have a couple of key people hanging out there, so to speak. And, it's not just saving positions, but it's saving them and the programs that they are teaching and contributing to. So that's my pitch.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for James or Maurice about the foundation? Okay, we'll move on. Let's start our program if we don't have any other announcements. I'm going to turn this over to Bill Payne to introduce our guests.
Thank you,
Bill, you're
Greg.
going to have to unmute yourself.
I think I am I not?
There you go. We can hear you. Perfect.
Okay. We first learned of our speaker today through a rather lengthy article that appeared in the spring issue of the quarterly magazine as published by the Tribune. When current San Marino resident Trudie Sobel was 4 years old, she and her mother were taken from their home in the Ukraine by the Nazis and herded by rail car over 600 miles, first to the Lodz Ghetto and then to a labor camp. An incomparable seamstress, Trudie's mother, Masha, was put to work. Sewing saved their lives. Sewing brought them enough precious time to see liberation. In her 50s and now in America, with their sons grown and out of the house, the traumas of her childhood came surging back, and Trudie suffered a complete breakdown. A therapist suggested she attempt to express herself by drawing. Instead, she began to stitch her stories in thread. Now a prolific tapestry artist, Trudie weaves the tales of her experiences as a child prisoner of the Nazis in the history of her people. Trudie's story and her work appear in a new book, Stitched and Sewn, The Life-Saving Art of Holocaust Survivor, Trudie Sobel. Sobel is accompanied by her biographer, Jody Savin, Copies of Trudie's book are available for purchase. And after Trudie's talk today, we will be donating our copy to the San Marino Library in Trudie and Jody's name. So we are so pleased to have Trudie and Jody join us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Hi, everyone. Is it okay for us to talk now?
Please.
Okay. Bill, thank you so much for inviting us. Bill and I have become friends over the past few months, trying to navigate how to transition from coming to meet you all in person to meeting you all via Zoom. You know, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about how I first met Trudie, because it's kind of a local story and kind of a remarkable story, I think. My daughter, Maya, was preparing for her bat mitzvah, and she was studying issues of the cataloging of humans and how that can lead to the kind of dehumanization that makes people more comfortable committing genocide. And kind of a dark topic for a 12 or 13-year-old. But she reached out to the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust, which had a program which introduced teens to Holocaust survivors or others that are carrying the memory of children whose lives were taken in the Holocaust, who were murdered in the Holocaust, and who didn't live to see their own day of bat mitzvah. So I introduced my daughter Maya to Trudie, because Trudie is our neighbor. She lives right here in San Marino. And so they thought, you know, it was a geographical choice, but a miraculous choice, because I drove Maya, because she was a kid and couldn't drive, over to Trudie's house. Maya baked a challah, and we knocked on Trudie's door in San Marino, right there on Monterey Road, and Trudie opened the door. And in this house was this beautiful woman who's become a member of my family now, and this amazing private museum of her artwork, like unbelievable. Bill, I sent you and Greg a picture that just shows the magnitude of one of the pieces, because we dragged it outside one day and put it next to my car. It's the size of my car. Yes, this just gives you an idea. This is one of the first pieces Trudie did. Look how big it is. Like, you can't tell from pictures, but it's 8 feet long. I do have a little car, but this is a huge piece. Now, Trudie stitches these pieces thread by thread. I don't know if any of you have ever done embroidery, but embroidery thread has multiple threads in one strand. She separates each thread. So it's done thread by thread. And some of the depictions of some of her pieces, you know, you will see when he shows you other pieces, she can do your portrait in thread and it looks just like you. That's how much detail there is in this threading. But these pieces are enormous. They're brave. And neither my daughter nor I had ever seen anything like it. So my daughter, Trudie came to my daughter's bat mitzvah. Trudie shared the memory of a young girl named Hannah Zigierski. This was the child of a friend of Trudie's who had survived the Holocaust but since passed on. And Trudie was carrying this memory of this child, and she then now shared that memory with my daughter. So the memory of this child who was murdered will be carried on. And then, and my daughter shared her bat mitzvah with Hannah. But that was just the first step in a very long relationship that's only been 2 years long, but has been populated with so many kind of wondrous moments. So my daughter, who was young, said, you know, right away, we were driving home saying, people other than us have to see this artwork. But we sort of had no idea what to do. And so my daughter first wrote a short story called Trudie's Goose. And then that story won a few awards, got published a couple times, and then was turned into a short film. There there is a preview of this film on Trudie's website, which is trudiesobel.com. It's a stop animation film that was created by an Israeli filmmaker. And then from there, my daughter had to go to school and couldn't write a book. And I said, well, I don't know how to put on a show of Trudie's work, but I'm going to write a book because I'm a writer. I'd never written a book before, but I just was thinking, people have to hear her story. It's an amazing story of motherhood. It's an amazing story of the healing powers of art. And it's just an amazing story of courage. And so I decided to write the book. Many people were trying to figure out how to put on a show of the work, but putting on an art show is really complicated. My daughter then got a grant from the Dragon Kim Foundation. I don't know if any of you have heard of this foundation, but it's a Southern California foundation based in Orange County that gives grants to teenagers who have an idea of how to have an impact on their communities, a positive impact. So the Dragon Kim Foundation gave them a $5,000 grant, and they put on the inaugural show of Trudie's artwork. It was successful, and then the show moved to the Armory Center for the Arts. Hopefully some of you were able to see it there. And it was next scheduled to move to the JCC, the Mirage JCC in Orange County. But that JCC obviously has had to close because of coronavirus. So it will be mounted there when the JCC reopens. But it's important for people to see this work because Trudie's life was saved twice by stitching. Hang on, I'm just going to tell them. I can't talk. I'm sorry. Twice, because Trudie's mother, Trudie's my hero, but her mother, who I never met, her mother has since passed on, but her mother was like a hero of all mothers, because her mother had one purpose when the Nazis came to take them away, and that was to save her child. And her mother had a skill, which was stitching. And so she used everything within her powers to save this child as they basically marched at gunpoint 650 miles across Eastern Europe and then, you know, towards Germany. But her mother was a master seamstress. So, you know, there was no fabric during the war and people needed their, you know, coats turned inside out. You know, she did everything from help to sew the Stars of David on the clothing of the Jews, because if they didn't sew it on, they would be executed, to helping the Nazis turn their coats inside out. Whatever she could do to survive, she did, and Trudie can speak to that more than I can. But so stitching really saved their lives. They were put to work in labor camps, so they got to circumvent the concentration camps where they would have been exterminated. And then when they lived to liberation, I mean, there was a long struggle after liberation, but when they finally came to the US, Trudie's mother continued stitching, but Trudie got married and raised children, and then years later went into a deep depression. And stitching helped her get out of that depression, because a psychiatrist said, Trudie, if you're not going to talk and you're not going to tell anybody what's going on, then draw or make a doll. Trudie has a story about a doll, which I'm going to let her tell you, but he was the one who pushed her toward creating. And in creating these pieces and illustrating her experiences in thread, Trudie was able to sort of claw out of that depression. And Trudie, I'm gonna turn this over to you now. I think you're better than me to tell the story of your doll. And you guys, Greg and Bill, have a picture of Trudie with her Papa doll, which is the antique picture.
Yes. I thank you, dear Rotary friends, for inviting my precious Jody Savin, who wrote my story. You see how passionate she is? You have to love this woman. And her family, and Amaya, who contributed and so much with her ideas. It all happened because of this wonderful at that time 13-year-old. And I'm really, must tell you again, I'm humbled to be with you, and I thank you. Jody indicated about my doll. You see, my father, he was the director of things coming in and going out from this kolkhoz. I was born in a kolkhoz, which is a state farm. And so he, through his travels, here she is, through his travels, he found a doll because, you see, Mama expected a child and he wanted it to be a girl. And so the doll was, of course, saved for me. Now, he was taken to prison because he was a Jew, and one of the last ones that were helping to keep this kolkhoz going. And this was in November of 37 when my father was picked up. Vasilia Laboon, you have to come with us. And so my mother witnessed her last pogrom at this time. She knew what had happened. And so in March of 38, I was born and I was this little girl. And as soon as my mother could travel, it's very cold there. And as soon as my mother could travel, she went and she carried me to the men's prison, the Krivoy Rog. Krivoy Rog was the city that had the men's prison. And it was quite a journey for her. And when she arrived, there was a long line of women and children waiting to see their father, their grandfather, their uncles, their brothers. And it took many hours, but she did come to a window. I'd like to see Vasilia Laboon. He has to see my little girl. And well, he's no longer with us. Where is he? He was taken to Siberia. And of course, she then understood and went back home to the kolkhoz. Then a few years later, in 42, the Nazis came in with trucks and jeeps and wagons with horses and on horses, and knocked on the door, pack everything you can wear with you and all the food you can take along. And Mama was busy doing this, and I was holding on to my Papa doll. She was so precious to me. And so we left on a wooden wagon with horses and were guarded by Nazis all the way to Lodz. So, but before we got to Lodz, this one Nazi guard, he kept looking at me and my doll and came and tore my doll out of my arms. I cried and Mama, she says, "Shah, quiet." She was so worried that something else would happen to me. And that's what I stayed quiet almost for the rest of my life, really. And so we went on to Lodz and had this unbelievable terrorized experience. Not that all of this was already a terror, but here they asked us to undress and go into a room, a very large room, and women and children. And I just held on to Mama. Everyone's scared. I'm 4 years old. to see all these naked people. Oh, terrifying. And I don't know what happened there. We were then told to leave and put on our clothes again. And then we're asked to go to the ghetto, and the Jewish ghetto. And there, things were unbearable. I hope you will buy the book and read it. My Jody, she did such an excellent job of explaining all the various steps. And so we lived through terror and hunger, freezing cold, anxiety, and fear. Fear, every minute something can happen to you. And Mama sewed. The unbelievable thing was that I could stay with my Mama. My dear friends, that is such a glorious thing that happened to me that I'm here today. And so after the liberation, liberation, it became a liberation when a American soldier came to our door and he says, "The war is over. You can now leave. The war is over. You can now leave." We had nothing. Everyone was laying there with skin and bones. We all were. And you see, the reason we were still laying in the room, no, it was quiet. No one was around. We were surprised. We weren't, commanded to come and be counted again that morning. And so that was the reason. And Mama, with her last bit of strength, she says, "Trudie, get up. We're going to America." You see, when they were younger, many years ago, there was an opening in Russia for Jews to leave, like 1918 or 20, but they didn't make it. So her wish, I think, was always to go to America. She wanted for me to have a new life. And so we went. The soldier said, "Go down the road and get into a truck, and they will take you to a displacement camp." Of course, we didn't know what displacement, one camp after another. And so we get there. They gave us towels, soap, new sheets. You see, the life in the camps I didn't describe yet, but they gave us all this soap and we could take a bath. And we got new clothes. Clothes, I'm sure, that were sent by American families that are so generous. And so we had new clothes on. We inspected our bed. All American style, I must say. I call it American style because it had a real mattress and was covered with clean sheets. And so now we're ready and we're almost leaving to go to the cafeteria. We had smelled the food. How important that was for us. Food, my dear, dear Rotary friends. And so when Mama said, "Don't eat too much, don't eat so fast," being bred with thin soups and a piece of bread, our allowance in the day. And so it all went well. And gradually we got used to this luxury. This was all luxury to me. I was at that time 7. And so we got used to this. And one day a group of Red Cross ladies came and they gave all the children a wooden box with pencils and pens and erasers. Not pens, sorry, just pencils and erasers. Colored pencils were in there. and all the boxes had like a little toy in it. But mine had beads in it. My dear friends, I looked at them and I put them in my hands and I said, Mama, look at all this beauty. I thought these were jewels. It was all so gorgeous to me. And she saw the first very exciting light in my eyes in all these years. And she says, Trudie, we'll make something of this. Mama, could it be a goose? I asked her. And so she found a picture of a goose flying in the camp, and she tore, there was no material, so she tore pieces of her skirt from the Ukraine, and that was black, and then she copied the goose, the outline of the goose on parchment paper, and placed it on the fabric and secured it. And then she said, Trudie, you must do this. So I had already learned many things about sewing because I was with Mama. I helped her with what she needed to do. And so to insert the needle with a bead, put it down. Of course, it's not that important to all of you, but it was my first step in creating beauty. And so I finished the piece. Oh, thank you, my sweet Jody. Yes, that is the goose. And I didn't, she says, oh, place all the beads by the neck very close together, because the goose needs a stiff neck in order to fly. I never forgot that. And I told this story to my wonderful, beautiful Maya. And she was inspired and wrote that book. Now I have this, I didn't quite have enough beads, so, oh, we'll finish it in America, Mama said. And then we were, from that point, we were transferred to Würzburg, to another place, to actually find a room for Mama and me. Germany was bombed out, so luckily, finally, they found a room, and it was in Emmershausen, which was the birthplace of one of our great secretaries of state. I just now don't remember his name. So I found that out later. But we had our own room, another luxury, first time to be alone. We were always with so many people. And we were there, Mama sewed, and she turned coats around to winter woolen coats. Everyone had a woolen coat. And she turned them around, no fabric anywhere, and made them to be a new coat from the inside out, and was able to do that quite often. You see, we were given food stamps and some money, but you know, that is never enough. And I went to school. First time I was 8, and I started school, and I learned German in reading, writing, speaking, and I'm sure there's something else, but I learned German. And after a while, we were able to come to America, and we went to Bremerhaven and boarded a ship called, an army ship called General Hahn. And so we traveled around 6 days at that time on the ocean. And the ocean was very nervous. Oy, oy, oy. No one could eat, and the food was scrumptious, delicious. So we were then close to America, and the captain says, Statue of Liberty. Oh, My dear friends, you cannot believe we went on board and Mama cried, and just the idea, this is America. My dearest friends, you cannot understand this unless you have lived through torture like we had. And that's why I understand our newcomers so well. Nobody comes here really to want to get wealthy. They all think richness is having a place to live, buying food, children in school. And so we boarded a train and got to Chicago. So that is my story, how I came to America. And Chicago was our first place to live in America. Jody? My dear Jody, are you there? Are
yes,
you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. I put it on mute because I didn't want any noise in my house too.
Okay.
Am I unmuted now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the interesting thing about that goose, which was the first piece that Trudie made, is that it's literally made on her mother's skirt, and it's typically hanging. If you look behind Trudie in the picture, there's hooks on the walls, but none of her art is there because it's all waiting to be hung at the JCC.
Right.
And so the goose picture is there too, but that is a piece of actual history that typically hangs on Trudie's wall, because it was her mother literally took the fabric from her own skirt, the only clothing she had, so that they could make this goose together. And I think it's the embodiment of every hope that they ever had. Their time getting to the United States was not as easy as Trudie portrays it. They were stuck in a very anti-Semitic town in Germany that had once been a hub of Jewish life, but it had no Jews left except for Trudie and her mom by the time they were given a room there. It was a very difficult time, and going to school was very painful because Trudie was the target of a lot of anti-Semitism. And plus she was going to school in a language that she did not know. It was the language of her captors, and she learned it. Trudie's an awfully smart person, and so she learned German. She learned to read and write German, and a lot of these languages come. Whenever I would ask her a question when I was writing the book, like, what does this mean, or how do you pronounce this? Trudie remembers everything. She's amazing.
Yes, I did. Jody, I did forget to mention, when I went to school, my dear friends, started school, and we were in line with the students, one by one going into classroom. And in my back, I heard them call me dirty Jew, dreckiger Jude. And so you see, it continued. Of course it would. This was an unbelievable anti-Semitic town. If the farmers wouldn't have needed my mother's work, it would have been very difficult for us to have lived there. So I wanted to add that. Thank you.
We wondered if anybody has any questions.
I have a question. I'm Molly Woodford, and I noticed you're looking.
I'm looking for you on my screen. Oh, there you are. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Jody. Thank you both so much for your messages today. I remember when I was growing up in a small town in Michigan, my father and mother wanted me to learn about many different cultures and understand some of the trials and tribulations that people have gone through. One of the things that he did, and I don't remember much today, but he made me go to Hebrew school. And wow. I developed friendships, and I can say this prayer, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, but and then it goes on. I might have forgotten some of it.
No, you did very well.
You did.
Wow, good job, Molly.
Yes.
I am just thrilled to hear your story, and I'm it's such a beautiful story. While I know you went through tremendous pain. So thank you for sharing.
I thank you.
I have a question for Trudie. This is Nicole. If you're looking for me, I'm with that older looking guy with the beard. And the question I have two questions. Number one, how did you end up in San Marino? We're happy to have you. I would love to meet you when this is all over. The second question is, Steven Spielberg has recorded every Holocaust survivor to keep a record so that nobody forgets. Please tell me you've done it, and if not, would you please do that? Because we would like to have it on record.
I have not done that. Thank you for asking the question. And no, I have not done that. And how I got to San Marino? In Chicago, my husband was transferred to California. So we came here and sort of liked this area. This is how it happened. And I've been living here close to 55 years. And that's how that happened, my dear friend. And our sons went through school, through San Marino schools. And I did volunteer work at our library, which I loved. And we had, at that time, this was before 13 or during 13, and extra money had to be made. And we had these fairs. So my oldest son even helped me in one. It's a wonderful experience. So that's how that happened. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. If you're willing to give Greg, our president, your contact information, I would love to meet you when this pandemic is done. And I'd like to know, would you be willing to record your story with Steven Spielberg, or if we could find him and figure that out?
Yes.
I can answer that, Trude. So
okay.
Trudie's, I mean, she'd be happy to. Steven Spielberg hasn't recorded everyone. He's, he picks and chooses. That's the the Shoah project. He sort of, I don't know how he decides who he's going to record. But Trudie has done a lot of work with the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust. She has a series of, the first thing that Trudie did in order to bring herself up out of that depression was a series of dolls. And it's called 11 Centuries of Degradation. Right, Trudie? 11 centuries.
Exactly. 11 Centuries of Degradation, Judy.
Yeah, or Badges of Shame. And it's on permanent display at the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust. And it's an amazing exhibit because it appeals to people of all ages, because it's dolls. And all of these, when Trudie started to do research, she's an incredible researcher. She realized that the Jewish star, the Mogen David that the Jews were forced to wear to identify them as the outsider, as the Jews during World War II, that was one in a series of outfits or costumes that Jews were forced to wear over the centuries to identify them as the other, so that they could be more easily discriminated against. So Trudie outfitted 11 dolls in these outfits that would physically and visually marginalize them easily, right? Just to make it easy to discriminate against them.
Yes.
And it's a remarkable collection. So that's at the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust. There's 2 movies that have been made about Trudie, both by teenagers. One is the short story my daughter wrote that was then turned into a short film by adult animators, and another one was done by my daughter's partner on the project and another group of teenagers. There are previews of those movies on Trudie's website, which is trudiesobel.com. And periodically those movies are shown at festivals. So the movies have been done. Trudie has also, you recorded your story for the Red Cross too. We have links to everything on her website. And then I really wanted to write the book because I think the oral history is very important, But in Trudie's case, it's also a very visual history. So I know you guys also, Bill, you guys also have 2 shots that I sent you. One is of a piece that took her 10 years to do called Final Destination, which is, I call it her Sistine Chapel because it's Trudie's story of the Holocaust. And you can't, it's hard to see, without seeing this in person, it's hard. This is a very large piece done thread by thread. And this is called 1942, and this is the incident where her doll is taken. And this picture is a little bit blurry because it's a screenshot, but in real life, it's not blurry. But you will all be able to meet Trudie in person. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to cancel a lot of events, but we were supposed to appear in person at the library in Pasadena and at Vroman's and at many other places, all of which will be listed on the website once society opens back up. And then the show itself is going to continue to travel. So if you want to see Trudie's work, which I really think it's like one in a lifetime experience to see the work in person, once society opens back up, that will all be posted on the website.
Hi, can I say something?
The first show will be in Orange County.
No, I'm not muted. Hi, I just wanted to say hi to Trudie. This is Joanne Kindler. I'm Andrew's wife, and I've known Trudie for many years. I've been to your house and seen all your dolls and your beautiful work. And I've also helped exhibit it for the Jewish Federation of the San Gabriel Valley. And I can just second the opinion that everybody should see it. It's, in addition to just being so interesting as a historical subject, her work is so fine and so detailed that it really is worth even a drive to Orange County to see it. So hi, Trudie.
I thank you so much, my dear. And the person before, when we're allowed to see each other, I would be so honored if you were to come and visit me.
Trudie,
Yes.
you're
Thank you very
from
much.
both of our houses. I live near Nicole, and Nicole lives
That's
near
right.
you,
We're
so we'll do
neighbors. We
that.
would love to see you. Thank you.
Oh, that would be so nice. Thank you.
Jody, I
Your
have a
neighbors,
question.
your neighbors?
They're your
Trudie,
neighbors.
You know what? My hair. You will probably notice.
We're
don't
your
recognize
neighbors.
me with my hair.
I live by Joanne, and
You
we
know
are
me
your
for many
neighbors.
years.
Yes, yes, Joanne Kindler. Kindler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you, my dearest.
Okay.
Jody, I have a question, and Trudie, it's Maurice. Trudie, thanks for just I just found myself so emotional listening to you. And Jody, you know, how are kids getting in this information? I mean, it's such a deep subject, and for Maya to somehow latch onto it and then just kind of run with it and then make this great discovery. Are there programs for kids starting at age 5 to learn about this history? And how did Maya just kind of I won't say stumbled, but how did she discover it? And then how is she taking it on with her onto college, and how is she addressing this really important history? And Trudie, thank you so much for being vulnerable and just sharing with us. I will definitely be reading your book. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Maurice. But Maya is a very special young lady, and so intelligent. She could be 40 years old. But she heard my story and it affected her. You know, many times that happens when I speak at the museum, and that of course has been stopped now, and I hope it will open again. It's my joy to talk to these young people, from 5th graders to high school, finished high school. And they come in buses to the museum, and the museum sponsors the buses. And They see the museum and then come up to the library room, and different survivors relate their stories to them. And this, when I talk about my story, I know that they will combine what they have learned, the horrors of Nazis, and then come and hear someone that has lived through that time, and there is a connection, and they will never forget their visit to the museum. So this is how it is continued, and Maya is continuing with she's going to do more exhibits. She and Lila, or maybe just Maya now, but can you imagine, many friends of mine through the years, oh, Trudie, it's so pretty. It should be in a museum. It should here or there. I never said anything back, but it took these two girls, Maya, to hear my story and then apply for a grant that she wanted the pieces to be shown, that this actually started for us. And do you understand how golden that child is to me? And yes, that's how it all goes, and it will continue, and we must never forget the Holocaust. We must remember.
Trudie,
yes.
They just posted a picture of 1942, the higher quality picture, and also you guys have a picture of Trudie with Maya and Lila, the team that put together the show. But I will tell you that what my daughter always says is that, you know, she had Holocaust education in school, and she independently studied the Holocaust. But until you meet somebody who is an actual survivor, or see this work that was made by the hands of somebody who survived what they made the work about, you don't get it in the same visceral kind of way. It's just, she always says, what does she say? She always says these numbers, 6 million, can wash over us, and they're just statistics. But if you hear Trudie's story, then you know this happened to a human being, one human being, and then you multiply that by 10 million, because there were 6 million Jews, but there were 10 million people total wiped out in the Holocaust. And then you understand it in a different kind of way.
Is that Maya?
Yeah, Maya.
Maya's in the white shirt, and then yes. Lila, Maurice, you know Lila too. They're both soccer players.
I don't recognize them without soccer uniforms.
I know.
Wow.
These are my precious angels.
I have a couple of comments to make, if I might. Bill Payne.
Sure.
So my son's class at San Bruno High School went to the LA Holocaust as a bust over project. And Greg Ames, big football player, big tough guy, cried like a baby. He, after hearing a Holocaust survivor's story.
Yes. Yes.
I think that is a very well done exhibit, the whole LA Holocaust Museum. Second question of Trudie is, are they still giving a card to each person that goes through, so that you're carrying this, did this person survive or this person not survive, through the 2 or 3 hour Holocaust experience, and then you put this card in a machine as you exit to know whether this person survived or did not survive? I'm wondering if you are one of those cards.
Are you referring to the Simon Wiesenthal Center?
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh,
so Trudie, explain that there's 2 different museums.
Yes. Oh, the Holocaust Museum of Los Angeles started on the 12th floor of the Federation Building, and they have moved several times, and now have a permanent home in Park. Jody, help me.
It's near the La Brea Tar Pits. It's called.
Yeah, La Brea Park. And yes, and it is just a wonderful museum. And we don't have cards there, like you mentioned. And I immediately thought that perhaps it was about Simon Wiesenthal Center that you spoke of.
Yeah.
And yes, we have. This is what the museum offers is teaching, and the buses come 3 to 4 buses a day. Really, it's well run like a machine, and as long as we're still here, we'll be talking.
So we had as a Rotary program a docent come and speak from the Simon Wiesenthal Center.
Yes.
And one of our Rotarians, Bill Highland, was another one of these American GIs who hardly talked about their experiences. But when the docent finished her presentation, Bill Highland, San Marino Rotarian, stood up, and he was visibly shaken. And everybody watched Bill, and you could hear a pin drop, and Bill opened up, and he said he was a GI that liberated one of the death camps.
Oh, what an honor to meet him. Yes. What an honor to meet him.
He has since passed on. The only thing I can remember with clarity about his presentation or his thought was they had no idea, because they'd never experienced what was there. We have all seen film. We can't smell it or taste it, but we could see it. And the GIs that liberated had no idea what they were looking at. Bill, I guess, interrogated some German guard and then killed the guard. So Bill, there was a lot of justice, I think, being done, not in the Nuremberg trials, but on a one-to-one basis.
Right.
Based on the suffering that people had seen and wanted to do something about.
Right, right. I thank you for relating this story to us.
It's a difficult story, and Trudie, people often ask us how we did the interview process, but it wasn't easy because it's such an emotional and difficult story for Trudie to recount. Some of it, I think, she had never really talked about. So we did these interviews in fits and spurts over a very long period of time, as opposed to just sitting down. It wasn't possible to do the story in long interviews. Trudie, I think Bill would like you to explain
these stitches, the Yemenite techniques.
Didn't talk about how Trudie, who is the quintessential researcher, resurrected these Yemenite stitches, which in many ways had gone forgotten over the years. So you should explain how you rediscovered them.
Yes, well, I use them in every piece that I create, especially in my last one, Jerusalem, and they are a kind of a straight line embroidery pattern, but it can be used in curves, and you just have to redirect your needle you want this to turn around and come around. But you see how many rows there are of different stitches. The Yemenite techniques were discovered, a piece of fabric in the archaeological digs in Jerusalem, and thereby drawn again and taken films of. And Yemenite Jews still today do the embroidery, perhaps not in that exotic way here as I have it, to put them all together, but they do beautiful embroidery. Our Yemenite Jews are so talented. They're the best silversmiths and embroiderers. Anything that you do by hand, they're great at. And yes, and so that was found in Jerusalem. So when I read this and I saw it, I thought, whoa, why should I use because they're just simple techniques. It's so long ago. All you had was maybe 5 techniques in the world. And so I decided to combine them and use them in a different way to put down in stitches our heritage. And so it's been my great enjoyment to have continued this, and I have inspired other embroiderers, especially our Pomegranate Guild, and our president is very, very interested for me to show, and as it goes. But all of this was stopped, my dear friends, because of our coronaviruses. But it will come again, and I'll continue my craft.
Yeah, and Trudie just finished a brand new piece, a huge piece that is amazing. And Bill, I just sent you not a professional shot of it, a really bad Jody shot of it, but it's big and it's wonderful. The photographs, the photography in the book was done by another local woman named Anne Elliott Cutting, who's an amazing photographer. We asked her if she would, shoot all of Trudie's work, and she did most of it in her studio here in Old Town. So it is definitely and the publisher is also local. The publisher that we had some offers from other publishers. We just wrote it because I wrote it because I thought it just had to be written. And then we had an offer from a publisher on the East Coast, but we did not like the offer. I was really worried the book wouldn't it wouldn't do justice to the artwork. And then we met with this local publisher on Lincoln Avenue, Prospect Park Books. Amazing women who run this company. And I'm so happy with the job they did putting this book together.
Yes.
Yeah, and they were a pleasure to work with. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we had fun with them.
Yes.
So Trudie, are your sons local? And tell us about their families.
Yes. One son is local. He lives 3 blocks from me. And the other one lives in Tacoma, Washington. And I have 2 granddaughters that are in their 30s, early 30s. It's been a wonderful journey for me. I feel so, what is the best word to use? I feel so blessed that I have 2 wonderful sons. And you see, my dear friends, when they were growing up here in San Marino, we didn't talk to them about our experience in the war. And my husband survived by hiding up in northern Germany, one of the Mishpuchas farms somewhere. And so we never mentioned it to them, nor did Hans and I talk about it. And this may sound unusual to you, but it's generally the fact about most of us survivors. And so one day they were 17, John was supposed to go to university. We sat them at the dining room where I'm sitting now, and we told them about our experience and what had happened. They knew they were Jews, but we were not affiliated. And we celebrated the holidays. So, Mama, why didn't you tell us before? But you know, my dear friends, it was such a catharsis in our lives. We became very close to this day. My sons are worried about me, that nothing should happen to me. And here I am, this nice round person being busy all the time. So yes, my oldest son is retired, and so is my other son. And so that's my story about my sons.
Thank you, Trudie. Is that it for questions, guys? Thank you, Bill. Thank you for setting this up. Trudie, that was absolutely beautiful. I can't believe that you experienced all this firsthand. It's mind-boggling.
You know, my dear friends, it's my mama that kept me together and that gave me the strength, even at the latter part of my life, which I didn't go into, but Jody will in the book. And stitchery, again, saved my life through a psychiatrist.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, we're all looking forward to reading the book. And Jody, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your side of this also and facilitating. The work looks beautiful. Trudie, you're very talented. And we look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully, soon.
Oh,
and same with you, Jody.
Yes.
We'll let you know. And then a lot of information's on the website. If you go to the website and just, sign up to be on her mailing list, then when we start doing, in person events again, you'll all be invited.
That'll be great. And we'll share a video of this with everybody.
Thank you.
Of the meeting.
Well, thank you for having us to our first Rotary meting.
Thank you. Welcome. You're welcome anytime. We do this every Thursday.
Thank you, my Rotary friends.
Trudie, thank you. We're going to sign off. We've got a charities board meeting coming up. Otherwise, I could sit and listen to Trudie all day. This is fantastic.
Oh,
thank you. Quite special.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Greg.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Greg, are we staying right now for the board meeting?
Shall I turn you off? Will you say goodbye to me? Good. Hello. I'm still here on the picture, but everything. Oh no, there's nothing on leave meeting here. Just the picture. Oh, from you. Are we staying here for you? On the top is a recording, that's all. There's my picture here with plus and minus. Yes, on the bottom right. Wait a minute. Something else popped up. Lois Matthews is mentioned.
Can you hear me? I thought.
Yes, I can hear you, but you didn't take me off yet, young lady. Not yet. The top is recording.